Hola, everybody. Welcome to the Chats with Yvonne podcast, Public Speaking con Cultura, with me, your host, Yvonne Armenta. I talk about public speaking because I love it, and I want to help you love it too. My superpower is being able to connect our lived experiences back to why and how we experience the art of public speaking. As a keynote speaker for various conferences early in my career, I learned by doing, and now I share my tips for public speaking from my perspectives as a first-gen Latina, older sister, and mujer in tech, who also happens to be an introvert that likes to try new things with the 20% of the time she's not consumed by overthinking. In this podcast, we dive deep into all aspects of the art to help us understand our current experience with it and inspire our futuro as public speakers. My message to you, ponte perra. Today's segment is all about what I've learned during my running journey towards preparing for a marathon and the lessons it can emphasize for our own public speaking journeys. Porque like I said, I can connect everything back to public speaking. It is seriously my superpower. I did share a sneak peek of my main lessons on Instagram, but I saved the juicy chisme for our podcast listeners because this is where we can really sit down and chat away. So let me start off by telling you why I even wanted to run a marathon. I moved to a new city at the beginning of the year, close to the beginning of the year, on my own, and while I'm not too far from home, I'm far enough. So it felt like I was starting from scratch in many ways, and I had the opportunity to try new things that I hadn't tried before. I've recently tried power boxing, for example. I remember wanting to get into boxing in high school, and it just didn't happen for me for many reasons, because that required money and time, which were both luxuries growing up. And now I have full control of both of those things, and I get to spend money and time how I want to. So I started really diving into my movement journey, trying to figure out what type of movement I loved and could continue doing consistently. Keep in mind, I'm an introvert. I've said this before, but 80% of the time I stay in my shell and play it safe, while the other 20% of the time I do something that absolutely fucking scares me. Each time I'm in that 20% of my life, the outcomes make me want to stay in that percentile a little more. Pero, poco a poco, Yvonne. One of the things that I know I need is accountability, whether that looks like paying for a gym membership and making myself go because I'm not about to waste money like that, or signing up for an 8-mile run a month in advance because I needed some time to train, but not too much, otherwise I'd start overthinking it. And that's really where my running journey really starts. I signed up for a local 8-miler and would run occasionally in between, but really only focused on my overall fitness, meaning I knew I needed to run some more, but was just loving power boxing too much, and that felt like enough. Because that thing is hard. If you've ever tried power boxing, you know. Anyways, when race day came, it was tough. I'm not going to lie. There was a little incline in some places. We went through uneven terrain, and I was 100% boiling under the sun, but I did it. Finishing the race was a huge accomplishment for me. I hadn't really told anyone that I was going to do it because it was just my thing. And also, no conocía a nadie aquí, so who really was going to go? At the finish line, everyone had someone waiting for them, and I didn't. Where that normally would make me sort of sad, I felt so empowered by the strength in my body, but more importantly, by my mental strength to actually sign up and get through it. I almost decided to simply take a selfie at the finish line, but I asked someone to take a picture of my sweaty self, con pena y todo. I even did a little pose, which I'm glad I actually got. I captured the moment. Unsure of what I would do next, I started walking around because they were offering water, bananas, free juices. I was so thirsty, like water never tasted so good, y'all. And this is where it really started to make sense to me. There were strangers that I didn't even know who had just finished the race and those that were simply cheering us on, and it felt like we knew each other. Everyone was so supportive, and I felt like I was in a community when I really had never even seen anyone or met them before. All of a sudden, I wasn't feeling like that one girl that was walking around alone. I didn't even care. While I was in line to take a picture next to the sign with the race logo, while I was in line to take a picture next to the sign that they have there with the race logo, I met an older man who congratulated me and asked me how long I had been running. And I told him that this was my first time, and he mentioned to me that running was what has been keeping him sober. He was gearing up for a half marathon and full marathon soon, but in between he did these, what he would call mini runs at the time. Those were not mini runs for me. And keep in mind, y'all, I don't know if you know, but I'm a Cancer, and the emotions of it all almost had me crying right then and there. Like the adrenaline of being like, I just finished this race. I didn't even think I could run 8 miles for that long. It was hard. And then this gentleman here is telling me that running is a thing that's keeping him sober, and I'm feeling the community vibes. It was just a lot. And I'm not sure why I wanted to cry. I just felt so proud of him without even knowing him. But if I felt a huge sense of accomplishment, I could only imagine him, knowing that running is what keeps him from picking up a drink. I think it was a combination of personal accomplishment and a sense of community that made me sign up for a full marathon. When I officially signed up, I immediately texted my friends to let them know that I expected a poster at the end of the race because this time it's closer to the Bay Area, closer to home. And I even convinced my friend to join me in it. And at this point, you're probably like, okay, Yvonne, what does this have to do with public speaking again? I get it. Okay, ahí les va. This has been a journey so far. We're officially about 2 months away from the big day, and here's what I've learned so far and why I think there are some lessons you can take from my running journey to inform your public speaking journey and shoot, maybe even start a long-term movement journey of your own. Lesson number 1. Getting started is always the hardest. I can't tell you how many times I've been at home laying down, watching minutes go by, and convincing myself that in 10, I'll get up and go for that run to get my miles in. It honestly probably takes me longer to build myself up to go for the run than the run actually does. But isn't this how most things are? Especially the things that are good for us. I don't need 10 minutes to build up the courage to scroll my phone or to binge a TV show, pero ¿qué tal para ir a correr o para hacer la tarea? Ahí sí. And now I'm definitely sounding like a señora. Anyway, it can be the same with public speaking. It can feel intimidating to start your journey because of a mixture of our own internal thoughts, but also outside influences. So I want to talk about some from the lens of being Latinas, first gen, oldest daughters, o sea, from my perspective. And even if you don't identify with being one of these things I mentioned, I think you'll still find that you can resonate. Well, there's so much that we can do to internally get ourselves to simply start. Let's talk about the things that too often are out of our control and a direct result of the world around us and our role in it. And there may be a lot, but I want to focus on a few that, as I reflected, came to me. The first one is this lack of representation in language. There's what many call the standard for public speaking, and even who a public speaker is, what they look like, what they sound like. I've always thought that part of the reason that some of us experience public speaking so differently is that as Latinas, maybe first gens, we're in a constant state of needing to fit in to get your foot in the door, and then struggling to embrace your culture in these spaces and almost living a double life sometimes. Well, because of this, it can often feel like public speaking as we see it on the big stages asks us to be different than who we show up as every day. Con nuestra familia, con nuestros amigos. A lack of representation leads to even more lack. Or even language. I often found myself when I was on stage the very first couple of times trying to use vocabulary that I didn't use in my everyday life. How much different would our public speaking journeys be if we saw the representation on stage, if we could hear the representation on stage? But you know what? I truly believe that the cycle ends with us right now. You are paving the way for someone else to take the stage, for generations to come to no longer feel uncomfortable, to no longer have this barrier of lack of representation and language be a barrier for Latinas being incredible public speakers. Which I might add, we already are. We just oftentimes don't get the opportunities to showcase that. The second element that I want to talk about is bullying. I was bullied when I was in elementary, and I don't really talk about it much, but it did shape my relationship to people and planted seeds for my insecurities in large crowds. Me hizo sentir like I should just stay quiet y a ver si así me dejan en paz. Let's see if then they'll leave me alone. And that truly impacted the way that I see myself as a public speaker, or at least the way that I saw my social interactions for many years. There was a time in my life at a very young age where I would rather not talk to people and just be even more reserved than I kind of already was than to allow someone to hurt me or to bully me. Bullying is something that I don't necessarily talk about too much, but I do think it's such a big element, and a foundation for how a lot of kids experience public speaking, how they experience anything really in social interactions. But if my bullying started in elementary, it's going to take years to unlearn that. And the impacts of it are long lasting. And the third element that I want to talk about is being an introvert. So, being an introvert is defined as a shy, reticent person. And I had to look up what reticent was, and it means not revealing one's thoughts or feelings readily. And I really don't know about the shy part. To me, it's more appearing shy than actually being a shy person. And someone on my TikTok videos said being shy is an insecurity. Both extroverts and introverts can be shy people. And people often think that that's the same thing, that they're interchangeable. An introvert is a person that feels more comfortable focusing on their inner thoughts and ideas rather than what's happening externally. They enjoy spending time with just one or two people rather than large groups or crowds. So y'all can see how in the way that we think about public speaking today, that might be an indicator to some that introverts can't be great public speakers. And even though we know our truth, even though I know my truth, and I know that I can be and I am a great public speaker, when you have the ideas of other people fall down on you, when you know that other people out in the audience are feeling this way, or that they're thinking this way, or have this idea about who you are already based on this one trait or this one external factor, it can play with how you show up as a public speaker, or if you even show up as a public speaker and you want to. And I'm here to tell you that there's literally nothing wrong with being an introvert. Being an introvert and the qualities of an introvert aren't necessarily often rewarded in the spaces that we're a part of. For example, in tech, right? Sometimes you have to be the loudest person in the room to get your voice heard. Or you have to be the person that says, hey, I want this, I need this. And if you don't speak up, then you don't get things. And to some extent, yes, there's benefits to speaking up, obviously. But to the other side of things is leadership, right? Perspectives about who makes a great leader, who makes a great manager, who's going to take the lead in this project. It is oftentimes that extroverts or people with more extroverted tendencies tend to get those positions, even when maybe the introvert that you overlooked because you thought they were too shy for the position may have been a better fit. And I'll do a deep dive on this topic soon because I think it's so important to talk about, especially as it pertains to the area of public speaking. So anyway, these can all be reasons why not to start your journey with public speaking. They definitely shaped my relationship to it, and they're now part of the reason why I so badly want to help others love public speaking. Because while these things shape the way that I experience life, they're also exactly what make me who I am as a speaker. There are many reasons and excuses you could have to not start on that run, but once you're on a roll, you're unstoppable. Yes, you may need breaks in between and definitely need to nourish yourself in the same way you would while running, but you're in it for the long haul. Take your time, but make time for it and commit to it. And that leads me to lesson number 2. Practice is essential, but you have to find the type of practice that works for you. And I'll add to this that have a plan. Planning and practice is essential. I'm now in a place in my public speaking journey where I can wing many things because you'll find that every time what you say is simply a variation of something you've said in the past. There's not too much reinventing unless you're talking about a completely different topic each time. With running, oh no, I need a plan because otherwise it'd be overwhelming and I wouldn't see consistent progress, rather just an all over the place kind of feeling. My friend and I looked into a couple of different plans and chose one that we knew would challenge us but still work for our lifestyle. Every day we have a plan of how many miles we need to run and at what pace. I'm not going to lie and say that there aren't some days where I skip a run or maybe run 2 miles less than my plan said to, but I'm consistently moving. Even on those days where I decided not to run 10 miles, I still engaged my body in movement. I will either do a strength class and a power boxing or jump roping. And guess what? To me, that's okay. While I follow the plan on most days, there are just some days when my body wants to do a fun session of power boxing or practice my jump roping, which I'm trying to get better at by the way. It all contributes to my overall health and movement journey. I've learned that I can't eat before a long run or even drink a bunch of water, so it's better for me to run in the mornings. I'm figuring out what works for me and what will set me up for success. With your public speaking journey, there are ways to practice that can make you more effective. For example, it's probably best that you practice in a similar context to that in which you'll be presenting. While practicing with family and friends can be less intimidating, what you really want is to practice in spaces that bring up similar feelings to that of you being on stage, because then you'll learn to control them or at least get really good at expecting them. What makes me nervous may not make you nervous, and it's probably a lot easier to get some practice in when you have an upcoming presentation. But what if you're just wanting to get better at communicating in your everyday life, or maybe eventually leading up to a public speaking engagement? Well, here's where a plan made just for you becomes helpful. And here's how I'd go about it. Clearly define your public speaking goals and keep it simple and short. You can write this down, you can say it out loud. Identify what days of the week you can dedicate time to your practice. Hopefully you can practice at least once a week, but I might even suggest that you do 3 times a week and you chunk out your time like this. One session is 15 minutes, then 20, and then 30. Save the longer practice for those days where you have plenty of time. I don't want you to get overwhelmed with all this just yet. You can pick any topic you'd like and use a shorter time frames to record yourself speaking. Just on any topic you'd like. Leave it. Don't look at it until your next practice session, but do reflect on the experience. Write down what feelings, thoughts came up. At each of your practice sessions, read about one aspect of public speaking that you're interested in or you think you need more practice in. Commit to implementing one thing from that reading into your daily life. Do this over and over again until you feel more and more comfortable with the art. Lesson 3, no pain, no gain, but too much pain isn't normal. I will always push myself during a run to keep going, especially during those longer runs, which are freaking hard, y'all. But if I can feel that something isn't right in my body, that I'm experiencing pain, and not like the good kind of pain, but like the ow, I literally cannot physically run anymore type of pain, I will stop. Same for public speaking. Your journey should challenge you, and there will be spaces that you are a part of that don't feel comfortable. And to grow and open pathways for more people from your community to also get the opportunity, you have to go through it. But you also deserve to feel safe. You deserve to be valued, and you deserve to get paid for what you bring to the table. If anyone is making you feel less than that, you can leave and find a different way. Queremos crecer y crear oportunidades, but not at the cost of your own well-being. Not every public speaking opportunity is a good one. Take time to define what you look for in a speaking opportunity and make sure that it aligns with what you're looking for. Know your value, envision your impact, and do what feels good. Lesson number 4, I never regret going for a run. This is very, very true. And I often tell my friends, hey, you know what? If I'm ever feeling like I don't want to do this, I don't want to go to this power boxing class, I don't want to do this strength, or I don't want to run, remind me, Yvonne, like you always say, you will never regret having done it. Sometimes this is what I tell myself when I really don't feel like running. Yvonne, you're not going to regret going on this run. Why? Because I know it's good for me, not only mentally, but physically. Change happens when you stay consistent, and I've seen the change not only in how I carry myself day to day, but even in my body. Because I'm running consistently, I'm even more aware of what I put in my body. Not saying I'm on a diet because I don't even know how to do that, but I think about how the foods that I consume will energize me or not, and how they will show up for me when I'm running. Every time that I go for a run, I feel strong, I feel accomplished, and I feel ready to take on my day. This is a very similar feeling to how I feel about public speaking. Sometimes the process of getting up on stage is a little draining because it takes so much for me. Keep in mind, I'm an introvert. I overthink things. So it does take a lot of courage and practice. Like I mentioned, practice not so much because I can wing certain things, but it does take a lot of mental preparation for me to get up on that stage. But once I'm on stage, first of all, I'm not gonna lie, I do black out sometimes, but the applause, the feelings of, damn, I really just did that, make me want to go back up there and do it all over again. Because public speaking empowers me. It proves to me over and over again that I have everything that it takes, and it inspires me to keep doing what I'm doing to help more people love the art of public speaking. So when in doubt, take the opportunity to public speak. Take every opportunity that you can to practice your public speaking in the spaces that make you feel good, because that will continue to empower you and help you in the rest of your public speaking journey and feeling confident in it. Lesson number 5, stretch after every run, even the short ones, before and after too. I can't tell you how important this part is, and yet sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, I skip out on it. It's okay when I do the shorter runs, but doing the longer runs and not stretching, I could never. Quite frankly, I should be stretching no matter the length of the run. But yes, I've I think I'm often like, well, I already did the run. That's the part that matters, but it's not. It all matters. If I pull a muscle because I didn't stretch, then I won't be able to run at all for I don't know how long. Very similar to public speaking, my framework for understanding and improving your relationship with public speaking is reflect, connect, share. And guess what? And guess what we do in that reflect part? Yep, we reflect. This is the equivalent to stretching before and after your run. It's so important, and let me tell you why. In the first lesson, I shared some external factors that play a role in how we experience public speaking, how I experience public speaking. When I go on stage, I want to identify what parts of my performance I can improve on. And to do that, I need to reflect on what I said, how I said it, and how it felt while I was saying it. That gives me an idea of how to improve for the next time, but it also helps me reflect on those external factors that shaped my experience. I will usually do the reflection piece in my mind and write a couple of things down in the notes section of my phone if they really stand out to me, but maybe you'll do better if you have a video diary or maybe even a public speaking specific journal just for you. I may or may not be working on creating those for you. Keep an eye out for some fun stuff in 2023, by the way. But reflecting is incredibly important. This is how you will create the foundation for where you currently are as a public speaker to then build up and understand where you want to go. You can't decide, I guess you can decide where you want to go, but you can't really get there if you don't understand your current state with public speaking and your current relationship with it. To dismantle some of the ideas that we have around public speaking and the things that make us nervous, we have to understand what our triggers are. Stretch equals reflect. Remember that. And they're so important to your overall journey. It may not seem like it in the moment, but over time and in the long run, if you want to keep doing this for a long time, it's important. And I think we're on 6 now. Lesson 6. Find someone or something to hold you accountable. You'll need it on those extra hard days. And listen, y'all, I'm so used to doing things on my own that it feels wrong to ask for help. I'm used to this pattern of being the first that it almost feels like if I don't accomplish it on my own, it's not my own accomplishment. Does that make sense? Does anyone else feel that way? I signed up for the marathon on my own and later convinced my friend to do it too because she was also starting in her movement journey, and I thought this could help us stay consistent. She has been such a good partner, by the way. Inspires me to run when I need it and doesn't judge me when I take a rest day or run less miles than our plan says, and vice versa. We challenge one another and keep each other accountable, while at the same time recognizing that we're people still living a life outside of our running journey. One day, for example, a friend asked if I wanted to go to the movies and I still needed to get my run in, but I decided that I really wanted a chill day to hang out and watch a movie. So I decided to go and skip out on my run for that day. And I told my friend about it and she was so understanding. I didn't feel judged, but having her to tell it to made me feel like, okay, hoy no se pudo, pero mañana sí. And that's also really important as part of your public speaking journey. You don't want to become consumed by the idea that, oh my gosh, I need to practice this, I need to maintain this, because yes, structure is super important and you want to have a plan, like I mentioned, but you also want to allow yourself to live your life. I can't stop living my life because I have to go run. I don't want to not experience certain things because I'm on this strict thing. And that doesn't mean that you're not disciplined. It just means that you know when you absolutely can or can't. In your public speaking journey, there are going to be times when you don't want to practice or where you feel like, I'd rather not take this public speaking engagement because it makes me too nervous. Don't do that. Find someone that you feel comfortable sharing these opportunities with and help them help you stay consistent. Things are easier in community, but you have to find the right community for you. Who are your people? Can you count on them to help you in your journey and not force you, but help guide you in holding yourself accountable so that you can see real results? I prompt you to think about who your community is and how, when you have a public speaking engagement or an opportunity to speak, who you tell about it so that they can convince you to do it. And the last lesson I have is don't watch other people. When I ran that 8-miler, I forgot my headphones and had to run the entire time without music, which I actually learned is how I prefer to run because it helps me focus on my reading and I don't have the urge to sing a song, which might mess up my breathing, and as a result, my running. I also learned that while running, I was feeling good until I looked at the person next to me. If they looked tired and they looked like they were struggling, that made me also tired. Seeing them going through it made it harder for me to keep running. When I run on the treadmill, I used to be like, I can run faster, or this person is running slower or faster than me. Maybe I can slow down, or if they were going faster, maybe I should speed up. But I had to stop that. They are not me. I am not them. We are on two different journeys. How do I know the person running faster than me hasn't been running for like their entire life? Or maybe they're running to get their mile out of the way, where I'm running for distance. We may have completely different experiences and goals. Same with public speaking. People often ask me, who should I watch? And I frankly will say no one. No one until you've figured out who you are as a speaker. You need to establish your foundation as a speaker, and then you can look to others to learn. Comparison, I think, feeds into this idea that many of us can have, where we feel like we have to show up as speakers differently than who we really are in our day-to-day to fit in. If you have an understanding of who you are, no one can take that away from you. You can look to others to learn and maybe adopt some of their techniques, but always with the expectation that you're not going to be like them, and that's beautiful. You're on your own journey. You can do it in community, but not in comparison. And y'all, that's all that I have for you today. These are the lessons that I've learned during my running journey and that I thought were 100% connected to how we experience the art and how we can start in our own public speaking journey. I hope that it was helpful to see some of the similarities between these journeys, and maybe you can even start to connect your own journeys, the things that you're going through personally, back to the art of public speaking and how you are experiencing it. But before you leave, at the end of every episode, I want to share a tip of the week that will also serve to give you a clue on the next episode. Here it is. Get familiar with the space you're presenting in, whether you're in person or virtually. Know your surroundings and familiarize yourself with the space so that you feel comfortable and can navigate the space accordingly during your presentation. All right, ya, ahora sí. Thank you so much for being here. This was the Chats with Yvonne podcast, Public Speaking con Cultura. Nos vemos a la próxima. I hope to see you back again.